Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of In Distress, a podcast where I talk about nonsense in the comfort of my childhood bedroom. Welcome to this episode. I'm honestly in distress because my dog literally just ate a whole watermelon. Well, not a whole one, but like he ate like half of a watermelon. So naturally, I'm sitting here and I'm stressed and like we put him in the cage, and then because he's eaten a watermelon before, but he only ate like maybe like a little bit of the rind and that was it. But this time he actually ate the rind and then like the part inside too. And I was like, bro, like what are we gonna do? So like I'm here with my sister and we let him out of the cage after he like sat in there for like punishment or whatever while we ate. And then I was like, I think he has to go to the bathroom because he was really pacing around a lot. So we go and take him to the bathroom and he pees like 10 times. And when we come back inside, like he's like, it's like he still has to pee, like because there's little droplets of pee where he's walking. And I'm like, the dog has to go back out to the bathroom. So we put him in the garage and then I cleaned up like the spots that were like around the house. Obviously did it on my own. My sister did not do a damn thing. And this is what my sister is not the person that you want to have in crisis. I am the girl who sits there and thinks of the solutions and then acts on them. She is the girl who hears the solutions, agrees with them, and then watches you do the actions. And I'd be like, girl, she's just not really the person that I would want to have in crisis. Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie San Andreas, but when the fault line like starts causing earthquakes and tsunamis and stuff, I think about that movie and I'm just like, I love my sister down so much, but she is not the girl that you go to in a situation like that. She's just not. And I just know that I would outrun her. So I would survive, but I would just feel so bad that she passed. So I would literally have to grab a girl by the hand and she would just have to be that dead weight I carry. Genuinely, I love that girl down, but that is my truth. Anyways, so then I cleaned up the little pee and then we took him back outside. He peed 3 more times and then we came back inside and he's laying down now and resting, but he ate a lot of that watermelon. And if you're watching the video version, I'm going to put it right here on the screen. I don't know what to do with the dog. It was low-key my fault or our fault because we left him out. But naturally, when you leave the house, you don't think, oh, hey, my dog might eat this watermelon. Let me put it on the counter. What can you do? Anyways, welcome to this week's episode. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, everything is down in the description in the link tree. Go check that out. I'm about to be working on my website more often. So if you want to go and see the things that I'm talking about over there, I'm going to be talking about a lot because I just be yapping. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts where I usually put them on TikTok. They'll be on TikTok too still, but more in-depth version of them will be on my blog or website, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, if you want to do those things, also like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you want to stay up to date on these episodes. And if you're just listening to this through audio, just subscribe or follow on whatever you're listening to this on, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, a Google Podcast, who knows what else. If you're hearing it, follow along, support a Black sister during Black History Month. Okay, free the people. Anywho, I was thinking this week what I was going to talk about. I was like, but I actually came with a really great list. Actually, I was really proud of myself. I came with a really great list. And all of the things I do want to talk about, I do kind of want to talk about this one thing just because I feel like it's such a part of me, and it sounds really something that like, unless you've been listening to this podcast for a while, or like you literally like know me as like a friend, like we met and you just know, or you follow me on TikTok or something and you've seen the stuff I made about it. I'm a gay girly. I am. And it's not really something that like I ever like openly just jump out, pop out saying, because I don't really want like first of all, it's nobody's business. Well, that's first, you know what I'm saying? That's first of all. But like, secondly, it's also like, I don't really, sometimes when you tell people, like, it's like they look at you so differently. And that's like the worst thing, to know that like somebody's looking at you differently because of like one aspect of your life. And there's also like a lot of other elements to why I'm not. Obviously, you can't, it's not really something that you literally just tell any and everybody, especially like I live in the South, so it's not really like, it's not really an opening line, if you will. But yeah, but I've been going through, I'm actually down bad, or was down bad emotionally last week after I recorded this podcast. And I wanted to talk about it because I come on here to yap about my problems. And I was like, I was really kind of hesitant to talk about this one. And I was like, literally, why? So, first of all, for timeline's sake, if you didn't know I was gay, congrats, surprise. Who knew? If you always, maybe if you're like somebody I know and you're listening to this and you grew up with me or something, what can you do? You know what I'm saying? What can you do? Anywho, but I wanted to talk about that a little bit because last week I had actually asked somebody out, and like I gave her like my number, and I was like, oh, like I'd love to take you out sometime. If you're interested, here's my number, blah 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 blah. And like I was thoroughly waiting on that text back. But like first of all, I should preface this by saying I had sent that message like on like a Monday. It was like a Monday or a Tuesday. It might have been a Tuesday. I don't know. I think it was a Monday. Because I was stressed like the entire week. So I sent the message, and then like old girl was super busy and like doesn't check the app, right? So I was like, okay, she's probably like super busy, so I'll probably just get a reply back on the weekends, because usually when we would talk, it would be on the weekends. So I was like, oh yeah, we're about to be, everything's fine. You know, a little anxious throughout the week, but I was like, everything's gonna be great. We're good. We're locked in. Everything's gonna be fine. And then like the weekend came, and I was like, there's still more weekend. I was like, there's still more weekend. Friday came and I recorded the episode, but I was like, there's still more weekend left. So I'm not even tripping on that for real. Girl. Sunday came around and I was like, damn. Because one thing about me, one of my biggest fears is that I'm going to die without ever experiencing romantic love, and like that romantic love being reciprocated. And like the feeling that I felt at the time was like really like, it's just a lot. And first of all, let me get one thing straight. I know that people are like, okay, well, it just wasn't the right time, wasn't the right person, blah, blah, blah. I've heard that before, been there, done that, whatever. I'm aware of that because literally everybody will tell you that. And knowing that doesn't make the feeling less. Like it doesn't lessen the feeling. It doesn't make you feel better. Like if you feel lonely, that's not being told that just wasn't the right person and it's just not the right time. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't change the way I'm gonna feel though. You really have to just sit there with that. Like really. And I was like down bad as hell. And I know I was down bad as hell because I was like I talked to like two of my friends about it, because I don't really like sharing too many of my feelings sometimes, because sometimes like they feel super overwhelming. And when they feel like that, they almost feel contagious to the point of like, I don't want to share them with other people, because if I do, I feel like I'm going to like spread it to them or something. And then, I don't know. It's just a feeling that I feel sometimes. And I told like two of my friends about it or whatever. And when I was talking to them about it, I was like, yeah, like I understand and I know exactly what you're going to say. So don't say it, one. And then two, it was also like, I don't want people to, sometimes I don't tell people how I feel about certain things or how I'm feeling, because I don't want people to pity me. Like, I don't want people to feel like, oh, like, Tori, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want or need you to be sorry about that. It's just a feeling that I have, and I just wanted to share it. Like, I understand like needing to think, like thinking that you need to comfort people all the time. Like I understand. And sometimes there are moments when you do need to comfort somebody like through an emotion or whatever. But in that moment, especially, and really a lot more now, I've also been less likely to tell people how I'm feeling emotionally, because I feel like I'm supposed to be able to self-regulate those emotions on my own. Like, a lot of times I'm not able to sit with emotions because they feel really big and heavy. And I'm like, I don't want to tell, I'm like, I do want to tell my friends, but it's also like, sometimes I just know what they're going to say and I don't really want to hear that right now. And then there are other times when it's like, I don't want to share it because it feels contagious. And then there are other times when I'm like, I need to be able to deal with this on my own. Like my friends aren't always going to be there to talk me out of like whatever hole I'm spiraling down. And sometimes it's just like, and the thing is that like, then I go and do the therapy thing where it's like, okay, you're supposed to acknowledge the feelings and then just let them be. Like, I know that I'm not my feelings because I feel them. I know that I'm not my thoughts because I think them. But like sometimes some of those feelings sit really heavy and for long periods of time. And I'd be like, damn, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. And a lot of times in those days, I'm like, am I going to make it out of this one? I don't know. Obviously I did, but like, I still be nervous as hell though. Anyways, sorry, my body's becoming a little warm. But yeah, was on Hinge, sent the text out that weekend, didn't get a response, ghosted really at that point. And I was like, damn, like that really fucking sucks. Cause like nobody should be ghosted. Like, yeah, whoa. But like at the same time, like it is what it is. Like it's whatever. But that didn't stop it from like sucking and like from me. I was in my thumbs down. Like I was down bad. But in that, I was like, I want to talk about this on the podcast because I haven't yet. And this was actively happening last week, but I was like, we don't really know the outcome. And I was really trying to believe that good things can happen to me and all these things. And the thing that I really struggle with a lot that I was telling my friends let me connect back to what I was saying, that I was talking to my two friends about is that like, sometimes like it just really sucks and like the feeling is always there. I do want to make that known before I say this. The feeling is always there. It doesn't always feel strong or present, but like it just sucks a lot sometimes to just have so much love that you want to give and want to share with somebody and like there's literally nobody to give it to. Like it just has to stay in here. It has to stay in here. It has to stay up here. Like where do you put that? Like there's literally nobody to give that to. Down bad. So anywho, that's what happened there. And I was like, I really want to talk about this on the podcast, but I don't know. I just hadn't. And like, obviously I've talked about my sexuality on the podcast before, but like, this is like the first time in video format that I would be saying this, like actually looking at me saying it. And then it was also like, I told people from like my hometown about this podcast and I was like, ooh, if they listen to this podcast, they're gonna know my business. And I don't really care about people knowing my business, but also like, this isn't like, I don't really like people knowing my business all the time like that. So, but this is my podcast. And I was like, this is literally the only place where I can say whatever I want and it be fine. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to do it. And did. No regrets. Anywho, but I wanted to actually talk about sexuality and the time that I was outed because I just feel like that's such a refreshing story. Like sometimes I think about that story and I'm like, wow, I've really come a long way. Anyways, so I want to say that I didn't know that I was like bi for a long time, but like that would actually be lying because there was actually a point in my life when I was actively on Tumblr and like the gays are over there on Tumblr. And I was like, oh, like this is crazy. I was like, I'm an ally. Like I would see like stories and like read the stuff that people like would write or whatever. And I was like, I'm an ally. Like, wow, I really stand with the LGBTQ plus community. I was like, I am an ally. I support y'all. Not me though, but I support y'all. But like low key, to me, I had never really like voiced it or like said it to other people. But like by the time I was in like high school, like probably like sophomore year or something, I was definitely like, like what is love to me? Like, what does that look like to me? And for me, I was always like, whoever loves me and I love them, like it is what it is. Like if they love me, I love them. Like I'm never gonna like, I don't really care like what that looks like. It just is. So that's how I was explaining that away. And I was like, yep, we're in here. And then I had actually gone to this speed dating thing when I was in like, my freshman year of college, like second semester, anywho. But I was in this FLC, and FLC is like a freshman learning community, and they do this at like Georgia State, where they'll just put you in a class within a couple classes with the same people, so that like you kind of like build community, and it's easy for you to like make friends at first, and then you go about your time, and maybe you're friends with people, maybe you're not, but you're all together and going through that first semester together, so it's great. So I had made a friend and I was like, oh, he seems really cool. And so we would go and hang out. Or no, like, I'm not going to lie. I really forced myself into that friend group because I needed friends. But anywho, I thought he was cute, and I was like, oh, he's a cutie. And then he was gay. I was like, damn, that is crazy as hell. But then when I went and met his friends, I ended up finding out that a lot of them were gay. And I was like, oh, that is so crazy. That's nice. Okay. And then one of our friends in the group, I actually had like a little crush. I had a crush on. I did. I won't even minimize it and say it was small. I won't even say that. I had a crush. And some of my friends had clocked me, and they were like, hey, like, do you have a little crush? And I was like, oh. I was like, oh, not they clocked my tea. So then it was kind of like do I? And then it was like, oh, I do. And because like the people around me, this was like the perfect scenario, perfect storm of me like having this like actual realization of that, because I'm surrounded by people who are accepting of that because they are gay too. Like, this is really great. So yeah, I came to terms with that. And like, once you have like acceptance from like your friends and stuff, and I was also like out of the house, like I was on campus in Atlanta, like living my life. And it was just like really like nice to like be able to like figure out new things about yourself, and then like be able to do that on your own without like the pressures of like being back home. Like, I grew up in Georgia, I live in the South. Like, the way that people talk about gay people sometimes, even growing up, like there was maybe like 3 or 4 openly queer people in my town, and the way people would talk about them sometimes was nasty work. It was nasty work. And it was just really nice to be not in that environment and to be able to like figure that out without like having other people's opinions like forced on you, or like you constantly thinking about those. Like, yeah, maybe there are like those thoughts in your head, but like for me, I was always like, oh, I'm an ally. And really that thought process just shifted from I'm an ally to, oh, I'm one of you. Wow. And like, once you like are in that headspace, it's not that difficult. But there were a couple of things that happened to me within those years up until now. So like my freshman year of high school, I was friends with, or not even then, my 8th grade year of middle school, I was friends with these 2 girls, and they were super cool, and I thought we were all friends. And then like freshman year, they had like hung out with these other people over the summer. And then my freshman year of high school, I ended up meeting one of the people that they would hang out with. And I was like, oh, you know, so-and-so. Like, yeah, like I'm friends with them. Like, yeah, they're really cool. And we were like really close last year and stuff. And then the one that they had met and were friends with was like, oh yeah, so-and-so told me you have a crush on them. And I was like, oh, that's not, because I'm going to be honest. One thing it never was that. And at that time, I also didn't know that I was queer. Like, so it's like, now that's like something that's being forced upon me. And also, it wasn't even ever like that. And that's actually one of the reasons that I don't like talking about my sexuality to be like the first thing that people know about me, because once you tell people about that, they look at you and treat you so differently sometimes. Like, it's not everybody, no, but like there's a good amount of people that like once they know that, they kind of like look at you funny, or like, anyways, we'll get into that problematicness about the part where I was outed later in life. So then that happened, and from that moment on, I was honestly like, and the thing was that girl would actually be fake as hell in my face. Like, she would be, oh, we're friends, ha ha ha, kiki with me in like a different class we had together. And I was like, and I was really off that ever since, because actually, 1, why are you telling people that? And 2, like, really, it's still the same as the first thing. Why are we telling people that? Like, that's weird. Like, that was really weird to me. And so I was like, you know what, girl, forget you, actually. So, and did forget you. So then, you know, as the years went on, like, it was always hella beef. And one thing about me is like, you do me wrong like that, I don't like to think that I'm a girl who holds grudges, but like, actually, low key, I actually, for the most part, remember that anything that anybody's ever done to me, anything anybody's ever said about me, girl, if I know, Yeah. Yeah. So distance myself from her. And then I was like, girl, anyways. So, I moved on with my life. And then, freshman year, I had a crush and I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is something. I'm bi, I think. So then a pandemic happened, or I had some crushes in there somewhere. Then the pandemic happened, and that was talk about stunting growth. My God, I could have been out here in the streets. Not really, because it was never gonna be me. Can't really do the streets. Can't really. I'm too emotional. I can't even talk to more than one person at a time. It's just not for me. I'm very much on the straight and narrow. Anywho, but I like the pandemic happened, and then during that time I was at home and I like needed a job because I needed to make money. Like I was in college, broke as hell. So I went back to the job that I had like after I graduated high school, and I was scooping chicken salad down at the local chicken salad chick. And so this new girl had come there to like be a shift lead. And we had like gotten close because like we would like joke and giggle and like work together all the time. So like naturally, like I'm thinking like, oh, this is a friend of mine. Like I'm thinking, because in my mind, like when I'm friends with people and I'm acting like a friend with people, like you're my friend. Okay. Right. So we like hang out or whatever. And then one day I ended up like telling her, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm bi. And then like next day I go to work, and somebody I work with was like, oh, so-and-so said you liked them or thinks you might like them. And I was like, no, like, or something like that. Or like, it was like, oh, like somebody said that you like girls. And I'm like, and like, I'm standing there and I'm like, this is actually a bit too much for me. Like, actually, because it's basically like the same scenario from high school, but this was like, I actually confirmed, did say that, but like, why was that your business to tell? And it was also like, I literally told her, oh yeah, like, but it's not really something that like I tell a lot of people or whatever, like I'm figuring it out. And then after that, I went home and I was like, text old girl. And because then when both of those scenarios happened, the thing like that happened in high school and then which is like my sophomore year of college, is that now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, did I say something to make them feel uncomfortable? Like, did I do something to make them feel uncomfortable? When that was never the case at all. I treated both of those people like my friends. Don't know where the one from high school came out of. Don't know. Whatever. Like I said, forget that girl. She's muted on all my social media. I don't know what that girl has going on in her life. But the one from college, I was really hurt by, because it was like, I sat there and like, I told you something that was really personal to me, and I thought we were friends and that you would have kept that to yourself, and then you didn't. And then it turns out that like some people had been like talking about that, like people that like my manager or something, people, they had spoken about it. And it's just like, why? Like, why? Because then I'm going back in my mind and I'm like, did I say something or did I do something that made them like feel that way? Because now I'm questioning my actions when I never did anything that even alluded to, oh, I like you, or I never even said that. Like, and then that's really where the problem is there, is that like, the second you tell people, especially if they're straight women, the second you tell somebody, oh, I'm bi, or oh, I'm gay, oh, I'm queer, whatever, it's, you don't have a crush on me though, right? Girl, first of all, it is so big of you to think that you just think that, oh, I just have a crush on you. Like, that's already a lot. Like, we don't really talk about how delusional as hell that is, first of all. Secondly, it was like, girl, you're not even my type. You're not even my type. That's two. Three, if I did like you, why would that be a problem? I didn't. But if I had, it's just very strange to me. Very strange to me. I don't like that. And honestly, being outed isn't great. Like, that's not great at all. It's just not. And it's not even something that like I'm ashamed of. Like, if I ever talk to people, like, it's one of the first thing that comes out of my mouth if I meet you in a space that's not working. Like, one of the first things to come out of my mouth. And maybe once I am working with you, maybe I'll mention it briefly if it comes up in conversation. It's not something that I hide from, or I'm not, or like I'm ashamed of. It's just like not something that like, because again, once you tell people, they treat you differently or they say weird shit like that. And it's like, girl, one thing it never was that. That goes for the girl in high school. One thing it never was that. And that goes for the girl in college. One thing it was not that. Now we're here. I'm getting ghosted, but I'm out here and I'm putting myself out there and I'm struggling. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about that today because that's something that is important to me and like something that I do want to talk about and I am comfortable with, but I feel like I don't really talk about as often. Well, actually, I talked about it in other episodes of this podcast, but like not since the new season started. So boom, if you didn't know, you're a new listener. Now you know. If you grew up with me, now you know. If you're somebody that I knew at some point in time and didn't know, now you know. Congrats. Yay. Woo. Yeah. Anywho, now that we've discussed that, we can move on to something lighter. Like, that's actually crazy way to open the episode. Sexuality. Anywho, but yeah, hold on. I need some water. I talked a lot there. That was like a calm 26 minutes there. So I was looking for a new job the other day because, like I said, part-time job is just not sustainable long-term. So I was like, you know what? Looking for me a good old corporate job. And the thing about a corporate job, or really any job that isn't like me doing something that I'm super passionate about, like music or like content creation, is that it's just never really going to feel like me. And I feel like I want a corporate job because it's supposed to be stable. Keyword supposed to be. Because obviously a lot of people have been getting laid off and like, the economy is really bad right now and the job market isn't great either and so many other things. But anyways, I just kind of just want a corporate job just so I can like, you know, like get the experience, see what it's like. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I could find a place where I enjoy being at and a culture that I feel comfortable in and stay there for a little bit. But yeah, I was looking for a job. And the more that I like look for these jobs and like take these assessment tests and all of this stuff, it just makes me just not want to do it. Like already, like I didn't go to school to work for other people. Like genuinely did not. I went to school for media entrepreneurship, which is like a half media degree and then like a half like entrepreneurship degree, for the sole purpose that I've always known that I wanted to do music or I wanted to make content on the internet or like some form of media. And I wanted to be able to do stuff on my own, honestly. Like, if I'm thinking in my mind business wise, why would I want to pay and give like a manager like 20% of anything that I do and then go and give my agent 10% or 15%, give my lawyer however much money they need and to keep them on retainer? Like, to me, why would I want to sit there and pay those people for those things if I can learn how to do them myself? So for me personally, that's why I went to school. Because I have dreams and I intend on achieving those dreams. And I was like, y'all aren't about to catch me looking stupid. Never that. So I went to school to do that. So naturally, it makes sense to me that I was never, and I probably will never like enjoy or be comfortable working in a corporate job or like in an office or something. I don't like my days to look the same, basically, essentially. So, but the more that I'm like, the assessment tests are so ridiculous. So first of all, I don't really, and here's the thing about corporate, I know it's about competing. Like, people won't openly say that, but it is about that. Or maybe some people will openly say that. I don't know. But a lot of corporate jobs are about competing and about who can get to the next level and who can get promoted and stuff like that. And yeah, there are people who maybe work hard at the beginning of their career and then get to a place where they feel comfortable and they don't really care about promotions and stuff. They're just worried about, I don't know, maybe their regular life and stuff. And like, that's great and everything. For me personally, I'm not really one who likes to compete. Like, I'm a competitive person in terms of like, oh, if I'm playing a game, I'm competitive. If I'm playing Phase 10 with my friends, I want to kick everybody's ass and I want to win. If I'm playing Uno, I want to kick everyone's ass and I want to win. If I'm playing Sorry, if I'm playing Trouble, if I'm playing any game, I want to win. Okay? But when it comes to like competing in life, I couldn't be bothered. I really couldn't. I really don't care about that. Like, I can't imagine going to work and being like, I need to outwork the person to my right. Like, I'm either going to go in there and yeah, I'm going to give my job 110%. But like, if that's not good enough for somebody, why would I care to stay somewhere like that? Like, if I'm sitting there and I'm trying my best, or like, why would I want to have to compete and work 20 times harder for something that I don't even really know if I care about wanting? Like, and honestly, once it gets to the point of needing to compete, like, I don't care for that. I don't want that. And I think that's like a hard thing to cover up, that feeling, when it comes to like corporate. I understand that it's a game. Like, I understand that corporate is a game. It's just a game that I don't want to play at all. Like, I really just, I don't know why anyone would want to do that. I know, like, it's, again, stable job. They give you the benefits. They give you all the stuff. And I need those things. So, like, it's like, yeah, I need a job that's going to do those things and be stable and supply things that I need, like benefits, dental care, stuff like that. And, sorry, my sister's texting me, and I can't think and type at the same time. So then there was like it was like this questionnaire that I had to fill out, and it was about your like personality and stuff. And I wasn't enjoying, like, I'm like, it was stupid because I was sitting there and I was like, now I'm trying to sit here and outthink the people. Like, they're asking you like scenario based questions and then giving you like 5 solutions to the problem or whatever. And then maybe there's 2 of them that seem like the right answer, but they're not necessarily something that I would do. Like, I understand that companies don't want you wasting their supplies. And I'm thinking about that and I know that, but I don't care about that. I don't. Like, I understand what I'm supposed to be doing. I understand how I'm supposed to be answering the question sometimes. Sometimes when they ask you like personality questions though, I'd be like, girl, I don't know what the right answer is. And I'm like, I feel like I know what they want the right answer to be, but at the same time, I feel like I have to be honest. And I don't really, and I feel like a lot of like corporate or even like just job interviews, I get it that it's a game that has to be played, but I just don't like pretending. I really don't. I don't like pretending to be happy at a job. I don't like pretending to care about something. I don't like pretending to be something that I'm not. And a lot of like jobs and like interviewing processes have felt that way. Like, I need to pretend to be something to get a job, to get something. And again, it just comes down to I don't know if I care enough about that to pretend to do that. And I wish that was enough for people. Like, I wish that it was enough to like for people to just be qualified enough for a job and come in and do the job, do the work, and then that be enough. But a lot of jobs are really acting like that's not something that's good enough. They're like, I want more from you, XYZ. And this assessment test that I was taking, like, it was like a memory mind game. Like, it was like, they would give you different dots. They would give you a dot and then they have you do an activity to distract you. And they give you a second dot and they have to give you something to distract you, like a memory based test. And then at the end of it, they would make you like do the dots in the order that you saw them on the screen. And I'm just sitting there like, what is this doing to get me the job? I understand that the assessment is really just to weed people out of the like application process. So like maybe you are qualified, but you didn't feel like doing the assessment test. So then it's like, okay, well, girl, if you didn't feel like doing the assessment test, you're not even getting interviewed, which like, okay, weed people out. But like, it just, by the time I was like 15 minutes into the assessment test, I was like, girl, do y'all want the job position filled or not? Like the assessment test was like a calm hour. Like I was like, girl, I don't even know if I want the job anymore. Like I do. So I kept doing the assessment. But if I'm not desperate as hell for a job, like what am I coming in here for? Mind you, and the qualifications were only to have like a high school diploma or a GED. Like, what are we doing all of this for? Like, really, just wasting people's time just for them to not get the job. Like, if you just say, oh, you didn't get the job, we just sent the resume in. Okay, well, the best man got it, we hope. But like, for you to sit there and make me do a whole assessment test and like waste that much time and then be like, well, you didn't make it, that sucks. And honestly, I'm not ready to like receive all those rejection emails in my inbox, but that's just an L that I have to take, I guess, to move to the next level. I hate that for me. Actually, y'all need to go ahead and make me famous. So I need to subscribe and I need to go follow that TikTok page because I just hit 7,260 followers. Woo! Tori, congrats! Congratulations! It's so cool, so great. But yeah, I did, and I'm really proud of myself because it's taken a lot for me to get there. Like, I really think about, and I was talking to my friends about it the other day, I've really been making content on the internet for like 8 years and nothing's ever really done too great, done too well until like this year the podcast has done better, I think, because like it's video format. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking about things that people want to listen to. Sometimes the video views they don't jump. And that sucks. But at the same time, the podcast is doing better than it was last year or the year before that or the year before that. And TikTok has really, I think, been like a good place to like promote the podcast. So I guess it's fine, but I don't know. This has been strange. But yeah, I've been doing this for 8 years and it's crazy that like in the 8th year, it's like, oh yeah, things are doing better. Still not absolutely great, amazing. I could quit my job and make a profit off of this. Never that. But it's like, okay, like we've got things moving. Something's working. Something's going right. And I think that's honestly got to take what you can get. I think I've talked about that one quote by Ada, fall in love with the process and the results will come. And I think the results are coming. I haven't loved the process. You know, it's hard to fall in love with the process. One thing about me, though, is that lately I've been on TikTok talking about nonsense. I just been on there yapping, just posting as much as I can about whatever, just random stuff. And again, like sometimes the comments get nasty depending on what I'm talking about. I actually made a post about Taylor Swift. And Miss Girl is in hot water heavily, but not really talking about that. But I ended up saying that like I didn't think she deserved that album of the year Grammy. And I'll stand on that. I'll stand on business on that. But I said that and the comments started getting a little nasty. And like, I guess like, but people really are just mean on the internet. And so I just kind of stopped going in the comments. And I think that has been something that worked really well at the beginning of the year. And then one day I went to the comments and they were like bad. And I was like, I shouldn't have come here. And the thing is that I want to interact with people on there because that's what makes the internet fun. And that's like the point is like to go in there and share an opinion and then get other people's opinions about your opinion or other people agreeing with you or even disagreeing. But sometimes people can get so mean and so nasty and racist. And I just be like, girl, I don't need that right now. Don't need that right now. So that element of social media has been taken away. But it has been really nice to kind of like understand and like have a process of like, okay, well, I can post all I want. Just maybe like don't go to the comments or read a ton of comments or spend a lot of my times camped out in the notifications. But yeah, I think that has been fun. Like I said, in the 8th year, or really this is like the 9th year, like working on the 9th, I think that things are going a little bit better and I'm proud of me. It's something I've stuck with and stuck to. And people don't get famous overnight. Well, I mean, like they do. Like Ice Spice, it feels like I got famous overnight, but not everybody gets famous overnight. Sometimes you have to grind, you have to work at it, and eventually the results come. And if they don't, well, damn. But yeah, we're really still living off the motto, anything can happen in a year. And I'm proud of that, working hard. The next thing that I want to talk about, and I hope that this episode gets at least to like the 59-minute mark, at least to the 50s. But something I want to talk about was like the millennial versus Gen Z conversation. And as a girl who, and the thing is that like, I feel like people who were born and by like 2003, 2004, understand what life was like before like technology really took over and like was something that's a part of everybody's day every day. I feel like those are like the last people who experienced that, and I was born in 2001. So my sister was born in 97, so she's a 90s baby. Old girl loves to talk about she's a 90s baby, but couldn't tell you nothing about the 90s for real because she was literally tiny. And then 4 years later, I came along. And I actually ended up seeing a TikTok, and it was this guy, I think his name was Michael McLaughlin or something like that. I don't know. But I saw this video, and he was talking about millennials were the last people to experience basically like what it was like to like live life without technology. And the thing is that I completely like understand that. Like I completely understand like what he's trying to say there. And I think that that can be a valid point. But at the same time, it almost feels like people who talk about millennials as being like the last version of something kind of diminishes like everything that comes after it. So like, yeah, I am Gen Z, but I didn't get a phone until I was in like 6th or 7th grade. I'm pretty sure it was like 7th. Like I didn't get a phone until like the end of 6th grade, maybe early 7th grade. And even at that time, the only like social media that was really like that was like Instagram. And I had a computer when I was like maybe like in like 4th grade, 5th grade, and like I had a Facebook, but it was literally everybody like who had access to the internet and could be on the computer. We were all just Facebook friends, and we would just like, we all went to the same schools. So we would just like follow each other and like post random stuff like on Facebook, and we had like a little community, and we would play games on there together. And like that was pretty much it. Like I definitely grew up with my parents like, oh, y'all can be on the computer for like an hour or two, and like my sister in the computer chair, and like I'm sitting in a small chair next to it, like, or like I'm on my knees like looking like leaning on the computer table while she's like clicking stuff, and we would like watch YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like I grew up riding. Me and my sister would go outside. My mom would send us outside for the day, and we would drink from the water hose, and we would ride our bikes up and down the driveway, and we would go to our next door neighbor's house and knock on the door and ask if we'd come out and play. Or sometimes we would go over there and play the Wii, or like just watch Harry Potter movies if it was like raining. Like this was like I had a very like normal childhood. Like I will say that there are elements of that childhood that don't look the same for kids now, but I feel like saying that like our version of it was better is very demeaning to them. Like when I go to work, I work in the projects. People have phones and stuff, but it's not like that. Like and really when you think about the project really was like supposed to be like a community based thing of like you're around other people who are experiencing the same things as you, but like in hopes that it will encourage you guys to get out of there together, not like stay in the cycle because we've seen that's the version of the life that we've seen, so we keep doing that. the original purpose was like the whole community based idea. And I see that community on like almost every day. There's certain houses that people can like convene together or commune together the most. There are like a lot of the kids like go and they play and they hang out, or they walk to the park, or they ride their bikes together and they play basketball together. They go and play football together. Like they do stuff like that. And that's a version of, and I'm not seeing that version of community in the suburbs as much. Like when I go to the park and like go to walk my dog or hang out with my friends to walk my dog, it's like you don't really see a whole lot of that. Like maybe people are really close with their families, like their brother or sister have a kid, so they go and they take their kids to go hang out with their cousins. But a lot of it isn't like it is in the projects. Like, and I think that's an element of community that I think is important. And like I said, that's a version of their life that they live, because not even some of those kids have like technology and stuff, but sometimes like the phone bill isn't paid, so the phone can't even really be used. Like there are elements of it, there are elements of like millennial childhood that still exist. It's just on a different level. Like, and the guy was kind of talking about how, you know, like when you're a millennial, like you would sit in your room bored and you maybe would get a knock on the door and it was your friends, and you didn't know what the day was like, what you were going to do that day, because you couldn't plan it out. It was like maybe a friend would come over and get you, and you would ride your bikes over to their house and you would play video games and eat pizza, and a seemingly boring day turned into like one of the days that you were able to create memories with a friend. And it's like those things are still valid. They're still viable things to do. Like kids are still hanging out together. Like if you get them to put their phone down, they still hang out and have fun. Like I see that every day. It just feels so demeaning to constantly have people tell you that your childhood wasn't XYZ because it didn't look like theirs. Just because my childhood didn't look like yours doesn't make it less. Like, and I did literally the same things you did. Like my dad had bought a PlayStation 2, and me, him, and my sister would like play Atari games in my sister's room, or we would play Madagascar, this game on the PlayStation that we used to love playing. Like I would play games like that. We had NBA 2K10, I think. That was like one of my favorite games to play. And we played the Wii, and like my mom and my parents wouldn't let us do that all the time. So yeah, we get sent outside in the winter, like in the fall, like put your coat on, you're going outside, and we ride our bikes and we go in the summer. And like I said, play games and stuff. And just because like, and I understand what they're saying, there's elements to that, to like the conversation around like the fact that Gen Z and like Gen Alpha's childhoods are gonna look a lot different because they're exposed to technology and all of that stuff. But at the same time, I feel like a lot more of this conversation is on adults more so than it is kids. Kids don't decide to get phones when they're in 6th grade or like 5th or 4th grade. Kids don't decide to stop caring about school or not even knowing that school is important to them. Like a lot of the stuff that's happening, like kids don't just go around deciding to listen to Pound Town Part 2. Like a lot of the things that are happening in the conversation surrounding like childhood and how there's not like a lot of space for kids to be kids anymore. Like back in the day, it was like you were a kid and then you would go to school and hang out with your friends and go to the arcade or go to the movies. And then maybe in high school, you start listening to more like explicit music and, you know, listening to like the songs that you hear on the radio all the time, like Pound Town Part 2 or stuff like that. You start like consuming like more like sexual content and stuff like that, because that, to me, that feels like a natural order of life. Like to me, it doesn't make sense that somebody's singing about sex like Pound Town and like they're very explicit lyrics and children in middle school hearing that. That's a parenting issue. Kids getting technology too soon and that being their entire life because it makes them like be quiet and sit down. That's not good parenting. If you're not actually going to parent your kids, you don't need to be having them. If you're not going to interact with your kids and ask them how their day was, what they learned at school, you don't need to be parenting. If you're not going to do all of what parenting takes, and I get it, people are tired from their jobs, but if you're not going to do everything that parenting takes, and if you're not even thinking about those things when you're having like sex, or you're thinking about having a kid and bringing them into the world, you need to think about the whole aspects of that. When I have a kid, I'm going to be so honest. I don't care if my kid is, people are like, oh, you're a loser because you don't have a phone. My kid's not getting a phone. They're not getting a phone like very early on. And if they do, it's only going to be like, it's going to be a little flip phone, or it's going to be one where you can just make calls. Like, I don't want my kid on social media, because even though I had a perfectly fine experience with social media, for the most part, I'm a good kid. Like, I'm going to be honest. I was a good kid. I wasn't Googling crazy stuff on the internet. Like, I was going to Facebook and I was chatting with my friends on there, and I would watch YouTube videos, and I would watch Netflix maybe. That was the most. I would play solitaire and mahjong. Like, that was the most I was doing on my computer personally. And I know that there are so many different things that you can do on the internet, especially now. I don't want my kid around that. I don't want my kids seeing or like surrounding all of their life with social media. Life is so much more than social media. And we all know that even as adults, but it's still hard for us to put our phones down. Like, phones are addicting. Social media is addicting. We know that, but still people let their kids have that and get addicted to it so early on in life, and they're missing out on all the great things in life. Not only that, back to what I was saying, there's not a lot of space because people aren't making stuff for kids anymore. People are constantly making movies and TV shows and all this stuff for older age people, and then the stuff that they do make for teens and kids sucks. Like, sometimes I watch Disney Channel, or like I'll like see a clip of something from Nickelodeon or some other kids station, and the stuff isn't funny or it's not entertaining. Yeah, those kids are going to seek something else out because the stuff that they're watching isn't challenging them, or it's not funny, it's not entertaining them. So yeah, they're going to TikTok and seeing crazy stuff on the internet. And then, of course, they're seeing crazy stuff because you're not policing the time that they have on there. You're not looking through their phone sometimes. Like, there are a lot of holes here about millennial versus Gen Z childhood, and really not even all Gen Z, but like the back end portion of Gen Z. But a lot of that stuff that they're struggling with is falling onto the parents. If you want your kids to not, like, and the real problem is that a lot of parents aren't even seeing the problem. People who don't have kids, or people whose kids are like together and aren't like on social media and just always on technology, they're seeing other people's kids like that, and they're thinking that it's everybody. And it's not everybody. It's not every kid. Again, a lot of this problem falls on the parents for letting their kids like be so consumed by social media and not policing the things that they see, but also them not like giving their kids spaces or places to go to watch fun, entertaining stuff. Like, I'm going to be honest, when I get older and have kids, maybe, like, I'm probably just going to put on TV shows that I watched when I was younger. Like, because I really think a lot of the shows that they have on TV are really bad and trash, and they're not that great. And I obviously don't want them to be so wrapped up in social media. But also, for me, like, I had the freedom to make those decisions. Like, my parents knew that I wasn't going to be doing anything crazy because they raised me right. So, like, I wasn't on the internet doing crazy stuff, saying crazy stuff, posting crazy stuff, Googling crazy stuff, searching for crazy stuff. Like, my parents were like, okay, like, they kind of definitely trusted me to do that. And so I did. But a lot of the stuff, like, the kids aren't being told certain things and not being taught certain things. So when they do get the freedom to experience stuff, or have a phone or be on social media, obviously the outcome is bad because they weren't told key parts of like what it takes to have like, they're not taught like the things that you need to be taught before you're given technology. Like, don't talk about people. Don't treat people badly. If you have that understanding, you're not going to go on the internet and talk trash about people and like bully people on the internet and stuff like that. Like, if you have like some of these fundamental human traits, like, you're not going to go and do certain things on the internet because it's not something that you would do in real life. So why would you go and do that on the internet? And people aren't being taught that. And so then it's turned into millennials were the last to experience this, and millennials were the last ones to have that. And that's why being a millennial is better than being Gen Z. it's really great that you guys got to grow up without your phones being such a pivotal point of your life. However, that's not the life that all of us are living, and that's not how all of we are living. And just because that version to you was great and nostalgic, and I will say, it was really nice to hear the ice cream truck song and then run inside, ask my dad for $1, and then take off down the street to go find the ice cream. Like, that was really great, really pivotal moment. I loved having the windows up on a Saturday and, I don't know, maybe watching cartoons or being bored and laying down because it was too hot. My parents weren't going to let me go outside until the sun set a little bit more. Like, there are very nostalgic things about that, about being outside in nature and surrounded by it all the time and not caring about what's on my phone or what notifications are. That was a really great version of life, but that's not the version that we're living anymore. Like, we're in reality. It would be really great. And the thing is that it almost feels like people are super nostalgic for that version of life, which makes sense because everybody's nostalgic for when they were younger, like, for the most part. Like, if you had like a great childhood or you had good experiences, obviously you'd be nostalgic for that time of your life because it was like freeing. Like, you didn't have responsibilities, you didn't have XYZ. But at the same time, it's still, things are different now. Like, that's how the world works. Like, your parents, millennials' parents probably thought the way that they grew up was the best and that millennials were this, that, and the third. It's just that things changed. Things are different now. And that's such a regular part of life, like change and adapting and getting new things and having newer challenges for your kids or in society now. That's just a part of life. Like, when we started having cars and people weren't walking around town anymore, that was a change that you got used to and you thought was for the better and you thought was good. And now we're at the point of cars that take gas being problematic, and now we have to adjust to that change. Like, to me, it's just a very weird conversation. And even sometimes I listen to this podcast. It's called the Jokes on You podcast. And if you haven't listened to it or you have no clue what it is, if you're a Black woman, you should definitely go and check that out. Or if you're Black, they have a really great podcast and I really enjoy it. And they always make me laugh. And I enjoy those two Black women. I hope them and give them and hope that they have all the best. Like, they deserve it. But I listen to their podcast and they talk about how, like, sometimes, like, how the way that Gen Z people, some of them will talk to millennials and call them old and say this, that, and the third. And I can understand why that's annoying. At the same time, though, it's not everybody who's like that. Like, there are some very nasty people on the internet. There are a lot of nasty people in this generation, but there's also nasty people who are millennials. Like, people who are just like, oh, Gen Z is terrible and this is why. So, like, sometimes it really is like, girl, why are you hating on me? I'm younger than you. Like, I'm throwing it right back in your face. Obviously not the right way to diffuse that situation, but it happens. Anywho, I feel like this was a good episode. I'm proud of me. It did take me like 4 takes, and then one of the takes was 17 minutes, and I was like, doesn't feel like me, so I stopped and then started over again. But I'm glad that we got here. I feel like I talked about the things that I wanted to. This was a cool episode. Honestly, if you guys want to, again, if you want to follow me, everything that you can follow me on is in the link tree below. You can subscribe to this channel and stay up to date on these episodes. But a new episode comes out every Saturday, audio version, always 7 a.m. And then the video version is up by like maybe 2 p.m., noon, something like that, because I record them later in the day. Like, it's literally 1 a.m. and it's going to take a minute for my iCloud to sync this video to my computer because it's old. But anyways, yeah. Well, guys, I think this was really great. I enjoyed this week. If you want to come back next week, I'll be here. I'm really proud of myself. Been very consistent. Keeping my head up. Hoping for the best. If anybody has a job that they want to offer me, my email is on my channel, okay? And yeah, I would love to have a job that has benefits with it. Anywho, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll be back next week, and I hope to catch you guys there, okay? I'm gonna see y'all. This has been really real. Bye, guys.